Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Susan Jones. I am a first grade teacher up in Massachusetts who loves to share different tips, tricks, ideas, and strategies that I use in my classroom with you here on YouTube. I've been doing this for quite a few years now, so it is a fun way for me to kind of have a creative outlet, share with you all, and connect with teachers from around the world. Now, usually my videos are me inside the classroom and kind of sharing what I do each week as a first grade teacher, but now it of course is summertime, so I wanted to take a moment and just reflect on this past year. So in today's video, I'm going to share with you some of the things that I plan on keeping going as the year goes forward next year, and some of the things that I'm going to change. Now, I did make a video like this last year. It looks like this right here over on YouTube. I actually went and rewatched it, and it was funny because one of the things I said I was going to change, I forgot to change. And it was one of the things I was thinking this year I need to change. So this is why I make these videos, because it is important to reflect on what happens each year and how you can kind of change it up and make it better. But while it's important to reflect, you also want to remember to actually make the changes. So I did write this down just like I did last year, and I am ready to share it all with you. If you're ready for this video, please give it a thumbs up. Make sure you are subscribed to my channel, and let's just get started. All right, similar to last year, let's start with the things I'm going to keep the same. So really to do this, I kind of just thought about my daily schedule. I took a look at some of my slides. I, of course, take a lot of pictures and videos within the classroom. So I really wanted to kind of look through those and see what went well, what did not go well, and what I tried to change up. So we have some easy things I'm keeping, some bigger things I'm keeping. We're just gonna go through them. The first thing I'm going to keep is something that I was reminded of because they are actually currently in the washing machine right now, and those are my chair pockets. These chair pockets were actually something that I said I was going to change last year, and I am so happy I did. So that is a win for me. Like I said, I just rewatched the video from last year to see what I did end up changing. And anything that I changed that I'm currently keeping this year is of course a win, right? Because that means I reflected, I changed, and it was a good change. These chair pockets are something simple. Again, I am not affiliated with these whatsoever. Last year I had the really good stuff chair pockets and they did not hold up. So I invested in the Aussie pocket, or the Aussie pouch I think they're called. I will link them down below. And I'm so happy I did. They were so much more durable. They're currently in the wash and being dried right now. They are so easy to clean. You can run them through the washer and dryer with no problems. These are ones that I had had previously when I taught in Las Vegas like a decade ago. So I already knew I liked them, and I'm very happy that I'm keeping them. So that is an easy one. The second thing I'm going to be keeping this year is teaching with slides. Now, if you follow any of my YouTube videos, you know that I pretty much teach with slides all day long. And I did mention this in my last year's video as something I'm keeping, and I'm continuing to keep it. And in fact, each year I kind of make the slides a little bit better. I just find it is the easiest way to keep me on track and to make sure I am hitting every part of a lesson, to make sure that the transitions are kind of seamless, and just make sure I don't miss anything. I absolutely love it, and for me it is the easiest way to plan, because when I am planning, I take those slides and I take those lessons and I just throw them into each day's lesson. Now, I think I had mentioned this last year, but I did kind of go back and forth last year about whether I wanted to continue to use daily slides or if I wanted to have them done where I just kind of plop in like the lessons, meaning if I am on Foundations Unit 2, I can just pull up those slides and just kind of go through there. But I still found, and so I do think this is something we're going to keep next year, I find that I really like taking the lessons and throwing them into a daily slideshow. And I know that's like an extra step of work, so that's something you definitely do not have to do. I, however, hate having a bunch of tabs open. I am not somebody that typically has any more than like 4 tabs, and I really like to just have one. It's just the way I work. So all I've done is I've created these different slideshows for these different units. Like, you know, if you use foundations, I have these foundation slides right here. I have them for every single unit, and they are split up by day. So what I do is when I'm planning, I just have 2 little screens open, and I'm like, oh, okay, you know, Wednesday of this week, I'm on Unit 2, Week 1, Day 3. And I just go over there to the slideshow that I already have for foundations. I literally copy and paste those slides, Control-C, Control-V into my daily slides, and they are there to go. I just like having that continuity and not needing to go over to my computer, even though it's right next to my smartboard. I don't like to have to click around and wait. I think especially because I teach first grade, I like the ability to have every single thing that I'm doing in one daily slideshow, and I just use my little clicker. This is the one I use here on Amazon, and I just click through the slides all day. It makes my life pretty easy. I do know it's an extra step, but it is something that I just think works well for me, so that's what I'm going to keep. Also, just a quick note on the slides, if you are a kindergarten or second grade teacher, I am currently working on the full year for kindergarten and second grade to follow along that phonics program too. So if that is something you're interested in, that should be done by the end of summer. I also, throughout this past year, really did a ton of math slides, and I tried to take them and put them in separate units, similar to the phonics one. So that way, if you're just teaching like place value within 120 or addition and subtraction within 20, whatever the skill is, I kind of took those lessons and made daily slideshows for those too. So that's another big summer project. And with writing, I had a bunch of them that I had done. They're in the SJT Writing Club, of course. Everything I mentioned is always in the clubs. But for personal narratives, for informative writing, our animal research books, I have a bunch of different writing slideshows that are done as well. And those slides too are pretty all-encompassing. So if you're teaching personal narratives, you would just open up that slideshow, and it's going to have all the slides you need to walk you through 15 days of lessons. And then it also has any printable you'll use, of course, too. So you can either just open that up, or you can do it like I do and actually take those slides and just copy them into your daily ones, however it works for you. But this summer is a big, big summer for slides, and I'm excited to get all those to you. The third thing I'm definitely keeping in my classroom this year is IXL. Now, if you have seen my videos throughout the year, then you will know we love using IXL in my classroom, and our school definitely renewed its membership for the upcoming year. Now, in case you don't know what IXL is an online learning program designed for students in grades K through 12 with tons of online activities, games, and skills that teachers can easily assign to their students. Now, parents can also assign these to students as well, and because it is summertime, it's also a great place for students to keep up with those skills over the summer to not have that loss of learning. Now, personally, my favorite time to use IXL in the classroom is at the end of our math block. It's just a great way for students to practice independently the skills that I've taught them in class without always needing to do a paper and pencil activity. Let me show you kind of what that looks like.
So this is what it looks like when you log into IXL. Because my year is over, you can see just how much we used it this year. We have 208 hours, 1,034 skills have been practiced, and 818 skills have been mastered. So what I love to do during the school year is I like to use the My IXL, and then I typically go over to Learning, and I actually search by textbook. We use Math in Focus, so it is so easy for me to find the exact skills I'm teaching that week and just align it with the chapter. But what I also love is that because it is summertime, if you head over to Learning and go to the IXL plans, you can find some great little summer boosts, or I like this summer adventures. And this will be for the grade that your student is going into. So if your child's going into first grade, you can click this one. And it just has some ready-made skills plans for your students. This little indicator here shows that it's going to be for literacy, and these are math skills. And if you assign each one or just have your student go into each one, they can go ahead and get ready for the upcoming year.
If you want to try out IXL with your students or kids at home, they're actually offering a 30-day free trial for teachers and an exclusive 25% off for parents. Whether you're a teacher or a parent, you can take advantage of all of IXL's core subjects like math, language arts, and science by just clicking the link down below in my description. Another thing I'm keeping this upcoming year is my math block. Now, what I mean by that is last year that was actually something we were changing, and we worked pretty hard on that to get our schedule a little bit better to give us more time for math. Last year, or the previous year, we only had 45 minutes, and it was sandwiched in between lunch and our specials, which meant it was closer to like 30 minutes. And we just did not feel as though we had enough time to teach the skills we needed to teach. And I remember that year too, we were basically scrambling at the end of the, like the last 2 weeks of school to teach money and measurement, and we kind of did it at the same time. So we worked really hard to move that up in the morning. We now have a full hour for math, and it includes our calendar time, it includes all of that, and it has worked so much better, and I can really walk through a full math lesson in the way that I like to, and I feel like my students benefited from that so much more. I just mentioned this when I was talking about slides, but I worked a lot on some different units for math that I'm going to get out this summer. but those lessons really kind of walk through exactly how I teach each skill. I actually made a whole video this past year about how to teach place value, and it walks through I think 7 or 8 lessons that I explicitly teach in first grade. So if you want to see what my math block looks like, what types of activities I like to include, and just the general layout of it, that video right there is going to be perfect for you. And then I also included a ton of free slides for you to use, so go check that one out. I'll link it down in the description. But I am very, very happy to be keeping our math block just the way it is. Which leads me to another thing I am very happy to be keeping, which will be 3 years in a row. I am keeping our win centers or win stations the same. So we have a win block. I have a whole video on that right here. I'm gonna send just a lot of different videos because in this one video I'm talking about many different things, but if you want to learn more about it, you can check out these videos to kind of see. But this video here explains exactly how I run win centers in the classroom, and I'm going to keep it the same because I love the way that we do it. Here is an example of what one of my win slides might look like. The 4 stations we always include an independent station, and the independent station is basically going to be a paper and pencil worksheet pack. And I don't do a ton of paper and pencil, but I do like to have this as a way to kind of see what students are learning and see what they can do on their own. So during this station, students are practicing the exact phonics and math skills that we are teaching that week. The next station is collaborative, and that one's going to be a math game. We use a ton of math games in the classroom, so this math game is almost always one that I already taught during the math block. And students are just reviewing it, or at the very least it's a skill, of course, that we've already taught, and the game might be similar to one that they've already played, so I might have to teach it at the beginning of the week. But here, when students get to this station, they will be paired up with a partner, and they will just play this game for a good 15 to 20 minutes, or until the game is done. The third station for win is always going to be a writing station, and this is where I really like to have my students respond to something, whether it's a video or a book that they read. I like them to take in information of some kind and then express what they've learned through writing. And a lot of times we will do this in their writing journals, and other times we'll do it using these packets right here. I use these a lot throughout the year. These are my monthly writing mini lessons, and for each month there's 7 different prompts, and it always has a video or a read aloud that students can watch first, and then it has a ton of differentiated writing pages for them to use that I can use throughout the year. So some of the pages are going to just have, blank lines. I usually don't use those ones. Many of the ones are going to have a sentence starter. Some are going to have a word bank at the bottom, and some will have a sentence starter and a word bank. So that kind of differentiated piece for first grade is very important, especially depending on where they are in their writing abilities. And then the fourth station for win is always just going to be a reading station. Now this is kind of an independent reading station where they are reading decodables that I've given them from their book bins, they are reading their phonics fluency folders, and they are also reading any books that they just happen to enjoy. So throughout the week, I put my students in groups, and each day they'll be in one of those stations, and that is Monday through Thursday. And then on Friday, we just do a simple must do and may do, and that allows me to kind of catch up if there's something that I need students to be doing that week, or if there's a special area that I need them to work with. So all week long, my students stay in a group and they kind of go from one station to the next each day. So they're doing one station per day throughout the week. And then of course there's only 4, so that's Monday through Thursday. And on Friday, we do a must do, may do option. And that really gives me the flexibility to, that must do can be something that my class needs extra work with. It can be kind of a catch-up day. I can really keep that flexible, which I also enjoy. So love the way I do win. Like I said, if you want to know more about it, more in depth, please check out that video. All right, a quick little silly one that I am definitely keeping next year is the use of timers. Now, I'm not talking about like these type of timers, although I use those from time to time, but I am talking about the timers that I use in my slides. Now, I just simply search for some on Google and I embed them into my slides, but timers keep me on track, and they also keep my students on track, and I just love them. Now, here's a couple of my favorite ones. I'll go ahead and link them down below. I don't know if that's silly or not, but in case you like them, all the timers I use have either calming music or upbeat music, depending on the activity. So if it is a partner game, we usually do either 8 or 10 minutes. So these are the 2 I like for that, and they have kind of upbeat music. It's light, it's playful. and they're 8 or 10 minutes long depending on the game. And then during writing time or any sort of independent activity, either 10, 12, or 15-minute timers, these ones right here, are ones that I just embed into the slide as well. And like I said, not only does it keep my students on track and they can see how much time they have left to do an activity, but also it sets the vibe for the activity that we're doing. Whenever music is playing in my classroom, my students know an expectation that we have is that I should not hear them over the music. So they're definitely allowed to chat, they're allowed to talk, but if I can't hear the music, it's too loud. Also during writing, this is a big tip that I have that my students don't like at first, but they definitely get used to it, is they need to write until that timer is up. So the activity or the prompt or whatever I'm giving them to do, I always make sure it is an appropriate amount of time. If I think it's only going to take them 5 minutes, I would not do a 15-minute timer, but it should take between 10 to 12 minutes of independent writing. My students should definitely be able to do in first grade. And if they think that they are finished before then, there's no like quick finisher activity. There's no, oh, okay, I'm done with this, I'm going to move on to the next thing. It's like, nope, we are writing during this time. And I have then at that point like taught my students that if they think they're done, they can either add more to their writing. So maybe they can add more sentences, or they can add more to their picture. There's always something they can add to their writing to make it better. And it really helps them not rush. Like I said, at first, at the beginning of the year, they hate this because they'll look at the timer and be like, oh, I still have 8 minutes, but Miss Jones, I'm done. And I'm like, oh, no, you can go back, you can add more. Did you check for cups? Look at your picture. How can we add more details? And I just kind of send them off back to their seats, and they are staying there and they are building that stamina to show me their best work. And it's something that I really enjoy. So timers, timers, timers. All right, and my last keep, which is also kind of a what I'm changing, it kind of falls in both categories, so it's gonna be our one that moves us to the next one, is our big keep is HMH Into Reading. So the reason it's kind of a keep is that if you followed along with my videos, you'll know that we piloted HMH Into Reading at the beginning of the year. I was one of 2 teachers in first grade who piloted both EL education and HMH Into Reading because we were adopting a new literacy curriculum. And once we decided to adopt HMH, I then continued that pilot for the rest of the year. There was only one part of it that we did not continue, and that was the phonics portion, although we are adopting that next year, so that's kind of the change. I really enjoyed teaching HMH Into Reading. It is a lot. There's a lot of components to this program, but once you kind of sift through it and figure it out, it worked really well for us. I loved the read alouds. My students were very, very engaged. I loved the vocabulary routines. My students learned a ton of new vocabulary, and I actually really enjoyed the phonics portion. We are using the structured literacy part of the HMH program, which is very science of reading aligned. And I was bummed that we had to kind of pull that back and go back to foundations, which I do like foundations as well, but I was just in a rhythm with what we had going for the pilot, and I wanted to continue that, but we did have to pull it back, so I'm excited to kind of go forward to that next year. So next year in my videos, you will see a lot change during the phonics block and a lot change during the reading block, so I'm excited to kind of share that journey with you, as not only will I be going through it all again next year by fully adopting the program, but also teaching the other students that I work with, or sorry, the other teachers that I work with, kind of working through that with them as well. And as we continue to beef up that program and make it better, I'm excited to share that with you. So those are the things I'm keeping. And now let's go into what I am changing for next year. Okay, on to what we are changing up for next year. The first one is actually something that was a keep last year that I am slightly changing, and that's going to be my morning meeting. Now, morning meeting is something that I will never get rid of. It is so important to me and my classroom community, and I do love the main way that I run morning meeting. I have a ton of videos about how I do morning meeting in my classroom. This one right here is probably the newest, where I share kind of what each day looks like. And I don't spend a ton of time doing morning meeting. It's a pretty quick thing that I do, but I do feel like it's so important. But the one thing I'm going to change up is during the morning meeting, I'm going to make sure we have an SEL focus every single day. Now, SEL, or social emotional learning, as you know, is a huge part of teaching. It's a huge part of teaching kids how to be kids and how to respond to one another. And if students don't have that, it can be really hard to kind of run a classroom, right? If they have deficits in growth mindset or deficits in anger management or just, all the different facets of social emotional learning, it can be hard to run a productive classroom. And there is just so much time spent on teaching students how to read, how to write, how to solve math problems, and all these things that we need to spend time on, that it can be hard to squeeze in some of that learning unless you're doing it through read alouds. Now, if you just adopted a brand new literacy curriculum, for example, that might be hard to just sprinkle in read alouds too. So it can be tricky to find places to teach that. So all this rambling to say, I think I'm going to use my morning meeting time as a great place to kick off that social emotional learning every single day. It's already a time where we learn how to greet one another, we learn how to converse with one another, we learn how to disagree with one another. So it's a good time, I think, to kind of add a little focus to it. And I have been wanting to create morning meeting slides for the longest time. I just kind of create them as the year goes on and I throw them in, but I wanted to compile them for you. So I think I'm going to do that this summer. I have a lot of summer plans. It is only June 19th. So we will see how much I get done, but I do have on the list to create these morning meeting slides for you. And then each day there's going to be a little SEL focus sprinkled in there. So I'm excited about that. I hope you're excited about that. And that is something I definitely want to change up for next year. All right, change up number 2 is going to be the use of my magnet boards. Now, previously we used Wilson's foundations, and so we used magnet boards that looked like this. They came along with the program and they were great and they work completely fine. My school, we are lucky enough to have quite a good budget that we use going forward each year for new materials. And like I just mentioned, we are now adopting HMH Into Reading. So we can still use those, but I'm going to use part of my budget to get these magnet boards right here. These are hand to mind ones, and I'm just interested to see how they're gonna go. So I guess I would like to know from you, do you use these boards before? Have you used them before? I will still have my foundations ones to use if needed, but I'm excited to just try something new. Again, this is a silly one, but if you happen to use these hand to mind ones, let me know down below if you like them or if you do not like them, and let me know why. Another new change up for this year is not something that I picked personally, but is something that we are changing, and that is we are getting rid of our Hegarity time. Now, Hegarity is a complete phonological awareness curriculum that is designed for students to work 10 minutes each day on their phonological awareness skills. And I definitely have noticed that students make a ton of progress throughout the year with these skills. But for the last couple years, you know, I've been reading a lot about the necessity of a program like Hegarity for Tier 1. Like, do all students need that intense phonological awareness? It's kind of unclear. We do know that the 2 main types of phonological awareness that students need in order to be successful readers are blending phonemes together and segmenting phonemes. So the new curriculum that we're using with the structured literacy portion does have both of those. And what I like about it is the skills that we are going to be blending and segmenting directly align with what we're learning in phonics that day. That didn't always happen with Hegarity because we would just follow along the manual and it doesn't align to foundations, for example, which is what we were using. So while I don't think it was detrimental to students at all, and it definitely wasn't, it's more of a question of that use of instructional time. It is pretty quick, so you know, it's supposed to take about 10 minutes, Hegarity is, and I would say by the end of the year we were done in about 7 minutes. So I'm interested to see how it's going to go. I know people love Hegarity. I loved Hegarity. Like I said, I don't think there was any harm in using Hegarity. I do just wonder with this new phonics program that we're going to be using if it would actually be necessary. So it'll be interesting to look at the data this year in that area specifically of phonemic and phonological awareness and kind of see where that takes us. I forgot to mention this too, but since I just talked about how the phonemic awareness is going to align with the phonics, a big part of those magnet boards that I'm going to be using next year is what I love about the structured literacy portion of HMH is we are word chaining and word building every single day. And we're going to be doing those with those magnets. And that is something that I did feel like was missing from foundations. At the end of the year, we did a lot of word chains and we wrote them down on our boards, and we would definitely sprinkle in word building with the magnet boards throughout the week. That was in the program. But I love that we're going to be doing word building, word chaining every single day. So I'm excited about that. All right, another thing I'm changing is my literacy centers. Now I feel like, let's see, I've been back in the classroom for 2 years. I must have switched up my literacy centers at least 3 times, which is totally normal. And each time I switched it up for a valid reason. But this last time I switched it up, I think halfway through the year, and that's because we got Lexia. So I've definitely mentioned this. If you're like a weekly viewer, then you'll know I have switched this up. And honestly, this was the easiest way I have run literacy centers in a long time. I loved the way I did it previously. Here's a video right here. I shared it actually last summer of how I ran my literacy centers, and it worked great. But it really kind of stopped working when we got Lexia. Lexia is a program that the district purchased, and students are supposed to be on it for at least 10 minutes a day. So in order to get students that time, I couldn't just put it in as like a rotation, because then they'd only be on it 10, 15 minutes a week. So the new way my literacy centers look is like this right here. So I have this pretty simple kind of 1, 2, 3 system, and down in the corner, you'll see a little 10 or 15 minute timer depending on the day. And what students will do is every single student, when we get to literacy centers time, will take out their iPad, and I will click that timer once right there, and everybody will do Lexia for that 10 to 15 minutes. Now, the only people that won't are the people whose names are under my teacher table. They will come to me, and that will be my first small group for the day. Now, after that first timer is done, everybody in the class moves on to number 2, except the group that leaves me, they go off and do their Lexia. And then with number 2, I pretty much always put in either a quick little seesaw activity. Here's an example of some of the ones I have created over the years to just align with the phonics skills we're teaching. So it might be a read and match where they're reading the word and dragging a picture that matches. They might have to be building a word, or it might be a decodable sentence scramble. So everybody will kind of go do something like that during that second 15-minute timer while I am pulling a different group. And then since with that one, students will finish up at different times, they will go right to number 3, which is Epic. So with Epic, students are just reading books online. So that is kind of what our literacy centers look like throughout the week. It makes it pretty simple. The only thing that changes there is the number 2. If it's not a seesaw assignment, it will be a paper pencil independent activity, because I don't have 180 seesaw assignments that I've created just yet. I'm working on it. But sometimes it'll be a paper and pencil activity where, again, they are decoding, encoding, or maybe doing a sentence scramble, but something phonics aligned. And then they can go to Epic, or kind of a read to self type of activity. That has worked really easy for me. It's also been very simple for me to manage, which I like. So that's something I will be changing, but keeping next year. Changing just because I only changed it towards the end of last year. All right, 2 more quick things that I am changing. This first one is one that I'm actually really sad about. I am not thrilled. So I'm gonna be interested to see how this goes. This is not something that I changed on purpose. This is something that changed on me, we'll say. I had no say in this matter, and this is where our writing time is. This past year, I loved our schedule. I thought it was absolutely perfect, but since we are adopting the new literacy curriculum, there were some timelines and minutes that needed to be added up. So something big that changed is now we are taking writing from the morning, which was after phonics time, to now the end of the day, which is what I had 2 years ago. And I worked really hard for us to move it back to the morning, because writing is the hardest thing students do in first grade, the hardest thing they have to do. And having to do it at the end of the day, I feel like is a huge disservice to them. The cognitive load that it takes is so hard, and it is like pulling, it's hard, it's hard. So I'm not thrilled about that. The way that they did it though, because HMH Into Reading, we're using their writing, which I've mentioned before, needs a lot of beefing up. I'll be excited to share that journey with you, because I'm gonna really try to see what I can do there for the writing portion of it. But each day, something I do like about it is that we teach grammar each day, and they're embedded in the writing lessons. So the way we switch it up is we still have 30 minutes for writing time next year, but we're doing 10 minutes of grammar in the morning, and then 20 minutes of writing, which is more of that genre-based writing, in the afternoon. Not a fan. I don't like it. I had a visceral reaction when I heard of this, okay? I'm just gonna be entirely honest. So we're gonna see how that works next year. If you do something like this and you think it does work, let me know. I think even if you tell me it works, I'm gonna be skeptical. I have been saying for 1,000 years now, you need at least 30 minutes to teach writing, which we are having, but I hate that it's broken up. I don't think 20 minutes is enough time. I don't think that doing 10 minutes of grammar separated from the writing, I don't think that's good practice. I have a lot of thoughts, and I don't like it. And I'm just gonna leave it at that, and we'll talk about it next year, okay? feel free to ask questions about how it's going next year, because you can already tell I don't like it. I'm turning red. All right, and this last one of things I'm changing is actually, I mentioned this at the beginning of the video. It's something I said I was gonna change last year and I just totally forgot to do. So I have it at the very top of my to-do list because it's something simple, but this is like a keep and a change. I love my digital calendar. I mentioned last year that I do not feel the need to have a physical calendar whatsoever. My digital calendar has 5 quick slides. I'm just gonna throw them up here on the board because if you followed my videos, you have seen these slides before. So basically we go over what the date is, the days of the week, how many days we've been in school, a weather slide, and we do the pledge. But I said last year that I was going to embed a time slide of some kind because time is something that I don't feel like we spiral enough in first grade. I know they learn it, but I just feel like we teach time to the hour and the half hour, I don't know, sometime in February maybe, I don't remember, middle of the year, and then I like never talk about it again. So at the end of the year, especially that time to the hour they get, but that time to the half hour is just, it's like lost. So I want to add a slide in there and I forgot to. So I'm going to do that this year. And I know if you're in my clubs, I have the calendar slides available to you. So I will update that one so you can use that too. So that is the one that I was really bummed I forgot to do because I had the same results this year. My students were still confused about time to the half hour, even though they mastered it at the beginning of the year or the middle, and then they just kind of forgot about it towards the end. So, oh, one last little one, because people have asked, is since we are switching from foundations to HMH into reading, a keep that I had last year was my sound wall. Looks like this in the back. I love my sound wall. That will 100% stay a keep. But a change is that I need to change out all the keywords and images. So I'm not gonna change them up. I will always have the foundations ones available, but once I have the new pictures and the new, there's a couple different ones that I had added this year, like for the floss rule, HMH Into Reading also teaches OL, all, and OL. So OLL, ALL, and ULL all together. So I did have different pictures for those and I did put them up on our wall when we were using that. So I'm gonna kind of realign those and I'll have those available too. So in case you also use it, you can grab those. But right now I will link the foundations ones down below since I already have them. And as I switch them up, make sure you are subscribed to my newsletter, my email newsletter. I will have that as a link down below too, because that is really where I can give you all the updates to slides that I'm finishing up, all these freebies that I like to share with you, all of those will be there. I know this was kind of a long video, but it's really important for me to kind of go through and process what went well this year, what did not go well, what I'm keeping, what I'm changing, and I figured while I'm doing that, why not share that with you? So if you have any questions about any of this stuff, please let me know down in the comments below. I would love if you could share with me something you are keeping or something you're changing next year, and maybe tell me a little bit about why. That might give me a reason to change up something I'm doing. Or let me know that something I'm doing is going well if you're also doing it that way. So let me know down in the comments. Some people have asked, I know it is summertime. I do still plan to show up every Sunday with a little video. They won't be in the classroom until I get closer to back to school season, and I'll show you how I set up my classroom and all that fun stuff. But for right now, I'm gonna do videos like this one where I'm sharing different topics and different ideas. So if there's something you really want to know about, please let me know down in the comments below and I will try to make a video for it. As always, I do hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up so I know. Make sure you are subscribed to my channel and click that bell. That way you're notified of every new video. See you in the next one. Bye.